A hair just flew into my face.
Oh no, hair, was it my beard?
Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tyler. Together we make up Kovray, a couple that loves to play board games.
Today we're doing a merit preview.
Pew, 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 pew.
This is where we take a look at the memorability, education, replayability, imagination, and the target of the game.
What game are we going to be looking at? Well,
it's hidden leaders.
Yeah, hidden leaders.
So this game was provided to us as a prototype copy. We actually followed the development journey of this game, so we're very excited to talk about it today and share some of our thoughts.
And of course, we'll start with an explanation of what exactly Hidden Leaders is. Hidden Leaders is published by BFF Games. It's designed by Raphael Stoker, Andreas Mueller, and Marcus Mueller. And the art is done by Satoshi Matsura. The kingdom is in turmoil since the emperor has just passed away. But there's a battle for the throne now between the 6 children he has left behind. You'll take the role of one of these characters and work towards making sure you're the one that gets the throne. Whether that be tossing the kingdom into complete war, making sure that there's a balance between the 2 different classes, or making sure that your class outdoes the other one. Will you be the leader that wins the throne? Now let's take a quick look at how to play the game.
You'll begin by setting up. You'll get your hidden leader and take a look at the 2 factions that the hidden leader is aligned to. You'll then place it down and try to remember it. You'll then get a hand of 5 cards, one of which you'll put in the wilderness and one you'll choose as a hidden hero by your hidden leader. So the goal of the game is to ensure your factions win by the time the game ends, and how the game ends will be determined on how many players there are and the mode that you're playing. Now during your turn, you'll follow 4 steps. The first step is to play a card from your hand. Now, each card will have an ability that will allow you to move the green and red markers, or potentially uncover certain heroes or disturb what your opponents are doing. And this is where the heart of the game is and how it's played. Or you can discard your 3 cards and into the wilderness, because step 2 will require you to draw 4 cards from either the harbor right here or the tavern. Then you'll discard 1 card into the wilderness. So by the end of the turn, you will have 3 cards. Then the last step will have you refill all the cards that you may have drawn if you've drawn any from the tavern. Now you keep playing, taking turns until somebody has the right amount of active heroes. At that point, the game ends and you'll see who wins.
Once the game has come to an end, simultaneously you'll reveal the hidden leader that you have. And depending on where the markers are, depends on what faction will win.
Now let's quickly go over that. The undead win if both of the red and the green markers are in the dark war spaces. Now the water people win if the markers are side by side or on the same space. The empire wins if the red marker is 2 or more spaces ahead of the green marker, and the tribes win if the green marker is 2 or more spaces ahead of the red marker. Now you'll take a look at which faction wins, and if your hidden leader aligns with that faction, they may be eligible to win as well. Now, you notice that a lot of these hidden leaders share some of the factions. So for example, if red wins and both you and your opponent have red, the empire, then there's time for a tiebreaker.
Yeah!
Now in the event of a tie, the player with the most heroes aligned to that faction will take the victory. If it's still a tie, then the player with a lower total amount of heroes in the party wins. Now if there's still a tie, you compare the number on the bottom right corner of the leader card, and a leader with a higher number wins. Well, let's dive right into the merit, shall we?
Sure, why not?
Memorability.
Dun, 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 dun. So the first thing we want to talk about with memorability is, of course, the characters and the theme that this game has. It's very intriguing that this game is spread out amongst 6 characters and only 4 factions. So you have this experience of you could get tied with somebody because you guys are both, or you folks are both working towards the same class, or faction. So you have to be very wary of that because you don't know what other people have.
And there's some bluffing element there as well, because you can try to convince your opponents by putting the markers together that you're part of the water people, and you're just, but you're not, and you're just trying to trick everybody. So that's always a little bit memorable for me.
Yeah, should you be working together with so-and-so on your right or so-and-so on your left? You never know, and it's just one of those things that's very, very apparent in this game, and you can be pretty sneaky about it.
Now, something else that I find really memorable about this game is that it's really a showdown at the very end. Because you'll get to a point where everybody has played a certain amount of heroes, and a lot of people are one away from just ending the game. But you'll see reluctance to end the game because the markers aren't quite where you need them to be. So it's quite a standoff, and it gets very exciting because if the right card is played, it can be that big grand moment that really sticks around with you for ages.
Yeah, and there are definitely cards that interact with other players that can throw them off, and you'll see their reaction because they were so close to having their faction win, and it's very fun because do you have a good poker face? Do you give things away right away? Yeah, it's very enjoyable.
Very. So now let's talk about the education elements of the game.
Exactly.
So oftentimes in games, you're really focused on what you're doing and what you have to do, and in a lot of games you can get away with it. You build your own kingdom, or you put a bunch of cats together in the same place, whatever the theme is.
Yeah.
But in this game, you really have to pay attention to what everybody else is doing, and that's really important element of the game. Because if you see that person collecting a lot of people from the water marker, and that person collecting a lot of undead, you begin to wonder if that's who they're going for, because that could be a really telling factor.
Yep.
And having that multitasking ability of not only paying attention to what you're doing, but paying attention to what everybody else is doing is quite a skill in itself.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of leads to the next point too, is you have to really plan ahead, but also be extremely adaptable to what's going on. Because like what Ilya was saying is you could see that somebody on your right is really focusing on playing the undead characters, and you're like, oh no, I don't want the undead to win. I need the tribe to win, for example. So you really have to be like, okay, well, how can I make sure that he has a hard time moving all the way to the right side, but I can still guarantee the win for the tribe? So it's this back and forth between, I know I need to do this, but I need to be wary of what other people are doing because they could mess with my plans.
Yes. And the last thing is one of the best education elements in this game is, you know, when you draw that card and it's such a good card and you want to play it right away, this game definitely teaches you to be like, stop, Ilya. Don't play the card. Wait till the last moment because this card can win you the game. Yeah. Although I still play the card because
why not?
Because I'm learning to be patient with that. So, and that's education.
Next topic we want to touch on is replayability.
Yes, let's talk about replayability. So there are 6 hidden leaders, and each of them have 2 different factions. So that's always really interesting, and because each game you can be going for a different strategy and what you want to really do in the game.
Yeah, so there's different win conditions based on on having one character alone, because you have 2 different win conditions that you can go for, and then on top of that, you have to take into consideration that there are 6 different 2 combination cards. So if you don't want to deal with a tiebreaker, and you notice if, say, me and Ilya are both competing for the undead and we want the undead faction to win, then I notice that he's going for the undead, but I don't want to deal with that tiebreaker. So if my other faction is the red group, then I'll maybe switch my strategy and go for the red instead.
And the replayability really comes in true with the variability in the cards, because all the cards require you to do all sorts of fun stuff. You can activate other people's hidden heroes, your own hidden heroes. You can get rid of people's characters. You can switch them around. Yeah. So there's a lot of variability, and the game is really dynamic, especially at a higher player count as well. Because by the time it comes around to your turn, you could have a completely different set of heroes on your player board.
Yeah, you never really know what's going to happen either, so it adds this element of surprise, which just makes it more and more fun.
And the games are played fairly quickly as well, so not a huge worry. You're not spending your whole day to realize you've lost. But you can dive right back in and be the hidden leader that wins.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, it's one of those games that like you can figure out, like you could progressively get better and better. So that strategy you can pick up on and be like, oh, okay, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, or I want to try bluffing a little. And it's very neat because you can build on those different strategy aspects and then pick which way you want to go with it.
Well, now let's talk about imagination. So again, the artwork in this game, the characters in this game are absolutely phenomenal. You can honestly pick a character and just build a story out of them. There's a Weir Quartermaster, for example.
Yes, yeah.
What does he do? Where does he work? What is his life like? You really, the art is really inviting, and there's so much diversity and inclusion that's in the art as well that you are just drawn to every character. You want to know what their story's about. Like there could be a book in this game, and I'd read it just to learn about all the various characters.
Oh, for sure. There's a kingdom in turmoil. You've already got me hooked. The other thing too with the characters is that I feel as if when you play a character and their ability that they have is very relatable. Like both of the character and the ability, it just makes sense that that's exactly what they do. So it's very neat to mix those in, and then of course you have your water people who are blue, who live in the water, who basically are merfolk, and then all the way to your undead, which are literally like witches that do necromancy, or like literally zombies that have been rose from the dead, and it's very, very thematic in that sense, which really adds to that imagination piece, because you feel just so immersed into these 4 different factions.
And I feel like this is also a twist on the classic of who's going to become the leader of the kingdom, where the king has fallen and now who's the leader. There's a lot of games like that, but this one's really unique in a sense where your identity is hidden, so you're trying to act from the shadows and get your heroes to do the work for you before you unveil yourself and say that you won. So I really like that element of it. It really does stick with you, and imagination is pretty great here.
Yeah, exactly. And last but not least, the target.
So who's this game for?
Well, it's got elements of social deduction and bluffing, so if you really like those types of games and you want a different twist on it, Hidden Leaders does exactly that. And on top of that, it's not just simply a social deduction or bluffing game. It's got a lot more going for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that's like the core mechanic of it. I feel like the core mechanic is more of like playing set collection of cards, of trying to collect the right cards to make the pieces matter, but how you play them and when you play them is the fun of the game. So if you enjoy skillfully playing cards at the right time, maybe this is a game for you.
Exactly, there's a lot of strategy behind the game, because as simple as it seems, it's very like you can dive into these things and learn and grow and build this strategy to make sure, or hopefully make sure, that you win the game. Because of course, with any game that has cards and abilities, there's always elements of luck.
Sure. But speaking of the simplicity of it, it is really easy and accessible to pick up, because essentially what you're doing is playing a card and drawing more cards. So that mechanic is really easy to introduce to people. It's really easy to dive into without explaining all of it, because you can quickly play a game and learn from it and kind of go back and forth. So this is a game I can definitely see playing with our families, or playing with people who play board games all the time.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those games where you just have to set it up and then draw, play, and read the card. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
But it packs a whole lot of punch into one small box.
It's true. And that is the merit of Hidden Leaders. Now, this game is on Kickstarter starting April 20th, so in about a week from now. So we'll link that notification so you can get signed up when the project releases, or the link when it is live. So feel free to check out the game. We've had a ton of fun with it.
Yep. And of course, just a reminder that this is a prototype version, so what you see in our video today might be different than from the final product. But thank you so much for watching. If you really liked this video, give us that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and if you want to see more videos like this or other videos that we bother making, hit that bell notification to be notified.
And tell us in the comments what games you're excited about, or maybe the games that you want us to cover or talk about, because we always love looking at different merits of different games.
Yeah, exactly. But until next time, we appreciate you sticking around. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.